This is Cyber Smokehouse, and I'm Ernie.
And I'm Graham.
Join us as we grill the minds, dig into the experience, and serve up the stories of leaders in cybersecurity.
Cyber Smokehouse is sponsored by TBD Cyber, a cybersecurity strategy consulting firm.
Today's guest is someone we're really excited to have on the show, a red team leader, application security expert, serial founder, and career cybersecurity operator. She has led offensive security teams at SecureWorks, IBM, Kudelski Security, heading red team application security and blockchain security services. She has founded not one, but two cybersecurity companies, both which exist for the same reason, to give organizations real, relationship-first security partnerships. Founder of Strategic Defense, Shannon Garcia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you, gentlemen.
All right. Well, Shannon, let's light the fire and crank up the grill. And we're excited to have you on. Our first question is, what's the big issue or issues that are facing the cybersecurity industry right now in your view?
Goodness, I'm sure this comes up every single time, and it changes depending on time. But right now, definitely AI. We are going through that cycle. I know you gentlemen are as well. In my world, I would say specifically with both of my companies, I am getting the questions, or we are getting the questions about AI without a doubt. And I think a lot of companies are struggling, just as us, even like business owners, are struggling to kind of figure out how do we, one, take advantage and integrate it into the businesses that we are running and operating, especially if you're a smaller company, but obviously we're seeing it with larger companies as well. But also in the same vein, and I think for us in cybersecurity for sure, we are trying to look at it in a way of how do we integrate this into our companies, our businesses, our processes, but also do it in a way that's secure because we have those fundamentals that we're thinking of, obviously, and not trying to be in the same position, I would say, as some of the innovative companies that are building products or services that are leveraging these and kind of really doing it without a forethought of like, hey, what could this possibly do? So I would definitely say those are some of the things that we're up against. But again, a lot of the fundamentals are still there. We just unfortunately don't see them. Again, even prior to AI, I think we can all attest for those that have been in the industry long enough that fundamentals were still suffering. But now we're trying to do it at a more advanced, rapid speed than what we've seen in the past, which is a little bit scarier, I think, in that regard. But again, there's pros and cons to all of it. So
yeah, no, that's great. You know, with in your space that I know you spend a lot of time in the kind of the red teaming, pen testing world. Have had background in application and product development and stuff, application security and product development sort of areas. So, how do you think AI is changing that those areas? Are we going to be able to eliminate pen testers? Do you think?
I don't, at least from where I stand right now at this point in time, I don't see that happening, at least not fully to the full extent. I think just like vulnerability, like scanning, we'll definitely be able to leverage and embrace some of the tools and products that different companies are creating, which is awesome. I will say this, that we've found, because we are not including any AI with respect to our testing. Again, very manual, I would say old school. But one of the things that we have found and encountered, we actually just had a client, was actually our first client for Strategic Defense that came to us when we first started, and then just recently circled back. And one of the things that they were exploring was leveraging companies and or products platforms that are leveraging AI for pen testing. And one of the things that they stated when they're just like, hey, let's do testing again for this year for 2026. One of the things that we have done for them as part of their security testing was wireless, and there are not any automated like AI platforms today that can handle or do that, at least not that we're aware of. And again, I was just kind of researching, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So there's that component. And I will say this too, I think and maybe it's just because, I don't know if it's age, generation, whatever. We do have clients that are just very used to the normal way of how testing has been done. And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist or that companies aren't embracing AI pen testing. They absolutely are. But I will say a lot of the clients that we are encountering, they're just not ready for that. And I think you guys know just as well as I do, change is hard for some people. And so they know, they understand how things have worked in the past. And I think they also appreciate, especially when you're dealing with really sensitive environments, that you just don't want to just, put something in and let it run and just to kind of see what happens. Those are definitely some sticky, I would say, situations that you don't want to impact somebody's business, right? You're there to help protect it as part of your job. You don't want to, make sure that that's happening. And for us, that's really kind of one thing that I think we really hone in, or I don't want to say hone in on, but we really try to express with our clients that we don't just come into an environment or come into a client and do testing and early say, hey, we're starting, and then kind of come back, in a week or 2 weeks or whatever and show back up. We really have daily communication with them as far as like, hey, these are the things that we've done today. These are the things that we're trying. Should something pop up as an example, that we see or that we encounter as part of that environment, that we ask questions and we're just like, hey, is it supposed to be like this? Are you supposed to have, is this particular role supposed to have access to XYZ? I don't think that's something that you're going to get right from an automated tool. I mean, obviously people are using those tools from an AI perspective, but at the end of the day, I think we really are, I think, trying to lean into the human part of it. And I don't know about you guys, but I have many of calls where I'm calling companies for whatever, and you get kind of the AI chatbot, and it like sucks because you're like, no, like, give me a person. I want a conversation. And again, maybe it's me, whatever. But I feel like
Yeah.
those are the people that are gravitating towards the traditional sense, but also we are really trying to express like, hey, this isn't just tools. Yes, we use tools, but it really is that tight communication interaction with our clients and having kind of that back and forth that we have. And I think they really appreciate. And it's something even for other companies, I think we bring a level to this that others don't. So that's kind of my view of the land. And people have asked me, I would say in the past or, this past year, hey, are you guys doing anything with AI yet? And we have had some of our testers actually that have looked at various tools that are in the market that kind of claim or do use AI to some degree, but they're just like, Shannon, at the end of the day, at least not yet. I'm not saying never, but at least not yet. It's still not to the degree that we need it to be. And I think as we're kind of getting more insights to different people that are using different technologies or, mythos or whatever, there's things that we're starting to uncover that it's just like, oh, maybe it's not as like sexy or whatever, at least not yet. And again, not saying that it'll never be there. I always feel like there's going to be this blend of like tools, technology that'll help us go quicker, faster, whatever. But are we there today? Will we be there, maybe next year? I don't know. But for now, like I think it's okay. And honestly, I don't know, personal opinion here. I think people are always going to, especially with complex environments, they're always going to want a human to like kind of talk to and talk with as we're kind of going through that process, especially if you have anything that's really sensitive that can really take down your business. If it's an e-commerce business, manufacturing, anything that might be in healthcare that impacts a person or whatever. So that's kind of my thoughts and opinions on it right now.
So, Shannon, I'm kind of curious. What are you seeing as far as like shadow IT, which I would think would be a bigger problem now? Because I've been playing with this stuff, and like I can spin up web applications that are database driven. And let's be honest, it's been a while since I've been like super deeply technical, and that's terrifying that I can go spin these things up.
Yeah.
And Lord knows if they're secure or not. I mean, are you finding this is a bigger problem now, and are they built securely? I mean, what are you guys seeing in your testing efforts?
Yeah, I mean, I think in larger companies for sure, that we definitely see some of those things, and that's kind of been inherently there. To be honest, I don't know if you ever kind of get away from that, and I really believe it's how a lot of companies how they tend to choose, I would say, to operate. And it's not uncommon for us to see, and even like take the shadow part out of it. I think we see, or I have seen companies that will allow, and again, I completely get it. You're trying to remove any barriers for your teams to continue to run and run fast. So we see and encounter different business units that are just allowed to do whatever the heck they want in terms of, you have a product or services and or services and you're just letting them run and you're not having them I would say standardize across like the entire company organization. They have the autonomy to do that, which again, it can be really nice. But at the same time, and again, you kind of think of this in the vein of, shadow IT, and it may be there. It could be marketing that's, putting something out there or whatever and have form fields. And I'm thinking of it from an application standpoint, and they're getting information and they're not thinking about what they're asking for and the information that they're collecting or whatever. But I see that across any like organization or business unit as they have, the autonomy to do that. So with that brings inherent like potential problems. I'm not saying it will ultimately, but we definitely see that. And then not only from I would say even a risk factor, I think being a business owner, especially now, we think of, and those that are owners for company that really are looking at budget, like what can we afford or whatever. I'm thinking about, are we, what are we spending money on, like just willy nilly or whatever. So you want to make sure that you're kind of keeping that under wraps. And even if you're not a small company or big companies, I think that can get out of hand really quickly. And you have no idea that you have, different groups, organizations that are purchasing licensing for products and tools. And I always say, like, in our industry with humans just in general, like we like the easy button, right? We want the product like, oh, this can do this for me, and we think it all goes away. Anyway, long story short, all that to say that part of that from a business standpoint, and this isn't even a security perspective, this is just business risk. At the end of the day, there's costs associated with that where companies are bleeding money, in that vein, in addition to possibly data or whatever, because they don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to, at the end of the day, have a business outcome that they're looking at, whether that's lead generation, new clients, or doing new products. But there's still inherent risk at the end of the day. But we still see that today. If you look at companies that we are engaged with or encountering, especially if they are in the AI space or anything that's advancing AI today, we definitely are seeing them like, hey, just run because we have, it's not unlimited funds, but there's funding there and we know it. And so they're just running fast, quick, as quick as they can. And so again, that's the scary part, but that also comes with innovation. And there's always this kind of, balance and or not, probably more than not than actual balance. But those are the things that we see and we are up against. And those are the things that leaders of large organizations, that are in the multi-millions, billion-dollar companies that we're talking to right now, those are the things that scare the what out of them, because they know inherently they're spinning things up quickly, so that their teams can run, and they're just like, I have no idea what's out there, and that's the scary part. Hey, can you come help us because we have no idea what we don't know. Like we don't know what we don't know. Those are the conversations that we're having today.
Yeah, I think it's I think one of our previous guests talked about this, and it's like IT, the role of IT is kind of changing a little bit in that, with the citizen developers used to come to IT and say, I've got this idea and I need you to kind of develop a proof of concept for it. Now they can do the proof of concept themselves
Yeah,
using AI code generation tools, vibe coding, etc. They can build the proof of concept. They come to IT and say, this is what I want, and now productionalize it, right? So it's kind of flipped it a little bit. So IT
yeah.
is more of a order taker than in terms of than the developer. It'll be interesting to see how that transition goes. Um,
No, 100%. Yep.
yeah. So I know you've had a long background, as I said, in product development, application security. Do you think we're better off now? I mean, what's your perspective on CI/CD pipelines, the way that we're kind of agile approaches to software development, how we're approaching security across our software development life cycles today? Is it better? Do you think it's improved, or is it still there's still lots of gaps?
Honestly, I can say this, at least in my opinion, of the things that I've seen and encountered. I would say, just in general, and it's not just a product or AppSec specific answer, but I think, in my opinion, what I've begun to see just because of where we are with how things have gone through COVID and just the financial, economic like circumstances and situations that a lot of companies are in. A lot of budget has been, I would say, cut or trimmed from a cybersecurity perspective because they really are just, trying to continue to keep the lights on, keep things running moving forward. And I feel that there have been steps that have been like we have taken steps backwards in companies, unfortunately. But I also understand at the end of the day that, right now they're just trying to get products out or continue to, do what they're doing. And they are looking at ways in which they can cut. Unfortunately, I think, I don't know. There may be some advancements in some of these things. I think it's probably more rare than the norm for sure. I think we could say that even before all of this, that you had few companies that really were marching in that direction, doing things in such a way that they are really trying to systematize, incorporating security into all of their processes. But I would say at this stage, there may be, I don't know, I feel like it's either the same or honestly less than what it was before. I don't think it um I don't know, in my opinion, I don't feel like there's a lot of companies that are doing enough. I feel like in my opinion, the things that we see, the clients that we encounter, we're still getting the hey, we need to do this because we have to, do a compliance audit or whatever. That's kind of the driving factor. And even then, some things can be very loose without the actual um, execution of those things being implemented. Yes, you can have documents to show, this, that, or the other, your policy, but, are you actually validating that that stuff actually works the way you think it does? I feel like there's kind of less of that today than there was before. But again, that's just kind of my small view of the world. But yeah, I don't know. How about you guys? What are y'all seeing on your end?
On the application side, yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously code is moving. Like people aren't sitting there coding away hard code. I mean, everything's going to the AI space. I've talked to some CISOs that have gotten the firsthand look at the Mythos side, and they're finding a ton of vulnerabilities. They're also spending a lot on sending a lot of checks to Anthropic. They're finding things that are valid. So it's certainly changing what we're doing, and hopefully finding more secure code that's going out the door. So hopefully the world will be better and a safer place.
I
We'll see.
hope so.
Time will tell.
I hope so.
So Shannon, I do want to, we typically shoot for 45 minutes. So I do want to, I want to switch gears a little bit. Like what other tech, makes you concerned or you're still focused on? Maybe even take it backwards 4 or 5 years. So like what happened to blockchain? Is this still a thing?
Yeah, it is still around and it is still moving. I don't see it and it get exposed to it as much as I did previously. I feel like definitely within the height of that cycle. So I feel in that vein that it is still moving forward. The companies that still firmly believe in the technology itself are still moving and building. And I absolutely feel that there is value in that, how it's going to get applied and move forward, and how that is being applied moving forward in things that we do is there. I don't have a ton of visibility. I wish I did, but it is still moving. I don't foresee the technology itself going away anytime soon. I feel like a lot of the things that were getting built that didn't really have much substance, a lot of that has fallen off, which is great. I feel like we see that in a lot of ways in every bubble. I would say, as far as technology advancement goes, we kind of see that. I think we're going to see that still, with AI. There's a lot of talk about like, hey, things are being propped up or whatever. People talk AI, whatever. What's going to kind of last, just like kind of the .com era. It'll deflate, but have its base and then continue to move forward. That's my opinion. That's what I think. So yeah, but it's good. I mean, there's things that are valid for it, valid uses. God,
Well, and then just on the other tech side, I mean, probably the easiest way to look at it is like, what are you asked to test the most of?
for us, I mean, on the testing side, it's still your normal traditional elements. Although obviously, perimeters and all of those things are changing as companies have changed. But I would say for your larger companies that still have those things in place, it is external. I still see more companies worried about their external perimeter than they do kind of the soft side underbelly with what happens when somebody's inside or if it's a disgruntled employee. Obviously, applications, clients that are still worried about those things. some level of device, but I feel like we're just more in a digital world. At least us specifically, our company now, we don't have as many um, requests, I would say, for which is kind of interesting, mobile and then also device. But we have had some come kind of in and out a little bit on the physical side with us having gone through COVID. We've definitely seen a lot more, remote workforces or hybrids. Yes, there's kind of been the back to office or whatever, but I still feel like a remote workforce, we're still seeing a big impact on that. And some companies have, closed down offices. That footprint is a lot, I would say, smaller than what it had been previously that we were used to, whatever, 10 years ago, or, maybe even 5. But yeah, so a lot of that has changed for sure.
Actually, I'm kind of curious, and I think this may have come up at a dinner that we were at when you get to more remote working environments where there isn't like a physical network to test per se. It, does that really that's got to pose a challenge for testing? Like, how do you approach that? Where everybody's like, well, we don't really have like that. We can't give you subnets.
No, for sure. And those are some of the things that we are coming up against in terms of what makes sense for the client based on how they operate and the types of, like, how are they getting into, are they having a VPN into some of the applications, or they're, heavy SaaS applications? It really just kind of depends on what's there. So we will go through that. Obviously, we talk to, I would say the majority of, everyone we talk to are Microsoft shops. So we are looking at, what could somebody do, as far as, that goes. If they had credentials, even a low level user, what are things that are being used by employees as an example, that are either requiring or not requiring, authentication to that? Are you using MFA across all these different services? And even for me, like, one of the things that I've learned from our team is, wow, it's pretty Microsoft doesn't necessarily make it easy to make sure that everything's secure because of the complexity and the granularity of what you can do with all the different services that are there. So making sure that those things are kind of locked down so that, people can't do things that they shouldn't, or putting a rogue device on that. And again, these are things that we test for regularly. Just to kind of say, like, hey, what could we do? What could we not do? But yes, we are definitely beginning to see a change in terms of the mix of, on-prem versus not, people working remotely. And those are honestly conversations too that we're even having from a phishing perspective. So we have clients that are asking us about phishing services. And yes, we do that. The thing that we have noticed and encountered, I will say this, for employees that are working at home, that if we're, doing phishing and trying to see, what we could do, or, whatever, as we're going through that exercise, the likelihood of them answering and picking up a call, very low. It's a whole different ballgame if they're in the office, but if they're just at home, like, it's hard to get somebody on the phone to, coerce them into doing something that they're not if they never answer the phone. And again, I mean, I scream on calls too. So I'm just like, I totally get it. But again, it's different. I'm just like, I go, we can do this, but, the likelihood, like, you're going to have low rates. So just, keep that in mind. Not to say that that's not an avenue that people get in, but everybody is a little bit different. And I think we have so much spam these days as far as spam calls and all that, like, people just don't, you know, it's not the same as what it once was back in the day. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. I was thinking, as you were describing that, I was thinking about, as penetrating the human firewall, right? Like, how do we penetrate the human firewall, if you like? And deep fakes and other ways to kind of attack the human, you know, uh, security pillar, if you like. So that'd
Hmm.
be interesting to see how that kind of evolves. I know. Hey, let's switch away from the technology for a minute and talk a little bit about leadership, Shannon. So you've led teams before, so tell us, kind of how would you describe your leadership style?
Goodness gracious. I would say for me, I don't even know how to articulate this. I think some of the things that I've I guess, picked up on over the years as far as my leadership style. And I think a lot of this is inherently just due to me coming into the industry, really trying to understand some of the different services, how things operate. It really gave me visibility to see. And again, I started out truly more on the practitioner side, even though it was a very short stint. Um, really trying to understand what my team was doing, kind of what the thought process was. But what I loved about it, and I think the way I operate is I don't take anything for, I don't know, I don't want to, not for granted is not the word. Um, anything, I guess, face value. I really want to know, like, hey, what are you doing? How are you doing this? Like, I really like asking a lot of questions, and it's not from a place of micromanaging. It really is a place from trying to understand, so I can understand like what my team is doing, kind of their thought process in terms of what they're going through, how they're looking at tackling certain problems. And I think for me, one, it gives me a lot of knowledge and insight, but two, kind of helps me see the world in their view, of what they're up against, and that even, um, I would say, applies to clients that they're working with. You gentlemen know as well as I do, there are some very challenging and difficult clients, but from that perspective, I'm always there to really try to take care of and be an advocate for our team. And so, really trying to understand, like, hey, what are we up against? There are a lot of things that are there, but I don't know. I would say at the end of the day, people first. I think one of the joys that I have unexpectedly, because I never looked at being a leader in an organization. If you would have told me, whatever, 10, 15 years ago, that I would be doing what I'm doing now, I would be like, there's no way. Because I was just the little engineer or whatever I'm obsessed for, even prior to cyber. But I absolutely love it. I think one, it's not for everybody, but maybe it's just like the nurturing element that comes from being a woman, a mom, all of those things. I absolutely love that, and kind of being there for my team. That is a huge aspect and element, feeding into the people that I work with as best I can, showcasing and sharing with them the things that I know, understand, explaining business, having conversations about clients or dynamics or politics that are happening within an organization that may be influencing whether we get to move forward in a project successfully or not. Those are all different things that I think are important. And I know not all managers, because I think we all have had a lot of managers, and not everybody does that or finds importance in that. And I do. So there you go.
So follow on question, has it changed, working for these big companies to running your own company, your management style?
I don't think so. I think a lot of that has remained the same. And, interestingly enough, the people that I work with, it's just people that I've worked with in the past. And I feel like that's a testament of just like, oh, like you don't have to like work with me. You're not forced to do that because we just happen to be at the same company. When somebody comes to choose to work with you, and this could be clients, this could be former colleagues or whatever, I think is what, honestly, because I'm terrible at marketing, at least right now. But I feel like that has been the factor of the success that we've been able to have, is just truly who you are as a person. Same thing with our clients. They know that we actually care. It's not, and you guys have heard me say this before as we've worked together, but it was never, revenue or utilization or whatever that got me out of bed. It was truly, truly, truly the fact that I really loved what I did and I do today. So none of that has changed. I think the thing that I love the most about running my own business is I don't have to ask for permission. I'm just like, hey, I want to do this. I could go do it. Or, you know what, we screwed up. Not that we've screwed up in any way, but at least not yet. As we started, my companies, is that, you know what, we messed up. Let's go do the right thing. I don't have to go ask somebody, for permission to put in extra time or to do this or whatever. And I love that. I love having the autonomy to do that. And I believe to do that well and serve not only the people that are our clients, but also my team. To know that they don't have to worry about, like, oh my gosh, whatever. I think they know how I operate, and, team first, people first in all, manners. So anyway, yeah. What else do you get?
Yeah, no, that's great. So I guess one other question just around this kind of area. You've worked in a lot of different consulting roles, and interested in, as you communicate with people, particularly outside of, technical fields, do you have any secrets as to how you can translate, very technical findings, very technical kind of topics to
Yeah.
non-technical audiences?
Yeah, absolutely. Funny enough, I feel like that's kind of maybe been, I don't even want to say a superpower, but I tell people this all the time that are coming into a technical field. If it's something else that they did, and not that I didn't not come from a technical field because I was an engineer before coming into cyber, but I always say that being able to really understand something at a level that you can then translate to other people is so hugely valuable, because we as technical people, whether it's engineers or what have you, or a software developer or fill in the blank, we often get into the weeds of what that is. And so for me, my time doing actual technical work and testing, again, was very limited before I got kind of put in the position of leading a team. And for me, there was a lot of learning that went along with, like, hey, what are we doing? But to take that information, translate it, because I do work with a lot of, and that was a big learning for me, is working with CISOs or VPs of security or CIOs, CTOs. But I also feel like the path that I came through or on while I was an engineer at AMD, and going through, I would say, being an internal consultant for the company at that point in my career, I was working with executives from the C-suite, and conveying to them what was going on. Again, I would have never, like, I didn't fully even understand what that meant when I took on that role, but it was one of the most valuable things of my career, and I'm so, like, grateful and thankful for that. And it taught me a lot, in terms of showcasing. At the end of the day, it's not about you or whatever. It really is, some of the key nuggets, I would say, is just like, how do you strip out the emotion personally, and really kind of showcase data to kind of prove your point to something is working or not working, whether that's processes within the company, the outputs that you have. And so that has served me quite well. And to be able to take the things that we find and try to, and again, big piece of what I try and incorporate to our clients of what we do, is this is a, not necessarily, I would say, return on investment, but it is to a degree, but it really is cost avoidance. To try and give some numbers of what that looks like based on the things that are found and them taking action on that. I think that's huge and significant. And so, again, that's a piece that I find very valuable. And I don't feel like we do a great job of that in the industry today. So again, that's kind of like, I would say, one of my missions is just like, how do we do that? How do we help? And I love the world of business. I love having my own. I love helping other businesses and really kind of understanding, what they're doing. How do we help make them, better? But it really is kind of blending, I would say, my world and theirs to, help make them successful. When we can have conversations of like, hey, let's do these things because this might hinder revenue for you because your possible client or existing client needs these things in place for third party risk, or fill in the blank, that then speaks volumes. I've literally had clients tell me, hey, we have whatever, a $10 million contract that's being held up because I need to prove out XYZ from a security standpoint. Great, let's help you make this a reality so that you're not losing $10 million in revenue. So all of those things for me translate. And again, it tracks so much more as a business owner and understanding those things from that perspective.
All right, I got a business owner question for you. What's been the most surprising thing in the journey?
Let's see. I would say for me was probably at the beginning, and I knew it would be a challenge, but I didn't know. I think I'm a very optimistic person. I think the elements of like getting the business up and going and the growth, like I'm just like, oh, I've done this many millions for other companies in the past, right? It's like this should be like I could do at least this, right? And so it just took a lot longer. And I think the realization of you no longer have whatever the brand is of that company that you work for. And even if they're not actively out there, promoting your specific services because they have a whole portfolio of them. But the nice thing of like, oh, it just happens to be one of your sellers heard, pen testing or blockchain or OPSEC or, fill in the blank, right? Whatever that thing is, or a PCI, assessment or whatever, gap analysis, they know who to go to. And so they would bring you that, lead or conversation. Having to really kind of build that from the ground up, I was just like, holy cow, that took a lot longer than I had expected or anticipated. But again, it slowly grew. I would say that was probably like the biggest, like, oh, I got like, I don't know. I thought I was too big for my britches and whatever. I thought it would go a lot quicker. I was like, oh, this should be, no big deal. But no, definitely took a lot longer for sure. And then the questions of, oh, what has your company done? And again, I was just like, well, I haven't done that for this company yet. I did it for, companies in the past. And anyway, so I think that's where the value of having kind of that reputation in the industry for, 10 plus years or whatever and doing the thing was really helpful. But yeah, I would say just the starting up process has probably been one of the biggest, like, oh man, kind of things. But I don't know, there's been little things kind of along the way. As we continue to get registered, I'll say this because this is going on right now. Registered with other states for both of my companies. It's so painful, like just the government processes, and I'm just like, really, like I gotta mail this to you, or I don't know. You can definitely see that different states are in different stages, and it's just like, oh my goodness. But yeah, I don't know. There's been some interesting things, but I think the hardest part for me was probably the first like 6 months or whatever. It's just like you're gung ho and then you're just like, oh my gosh, can I really do this? Like, you're like kind of freaking yourself out. And anyway, you keep going and, we're on our way to 3 years for both companies at the beginning of next year. But it's, I don't know. I love it. I just, again, very grateful, happy to be in a position to be able to do this. See my company is like grow, like double, whatever. It's just been awesome. I absolutely love it though. Yeah, it's good. I'm gonna keep running.
You haven't updated your resume to look for a job and you're still going, so it's a win. It's a success. So you're doing well. Congratulations. Yeah, for
100%.
sure.
Thank you.
Talk to me about roadmap. What does the next like 6 to 12 months look like? And I guess it's a two-part question because you got the two companies.
Yeah, for sure. So for the pen testing side, obviously we're going to keep doing what we're doing, growing. There could be a potential, and it's not off the table as far as, doing something from an AI perspective. One of the things that I have kind of had on my, I would say, personal goals is to do business acquisition. I never, I guess, looked at it from something within industry, but I would not be opposed because obviously this is something that I love and I'm passionate about and I have some understanding of. So could it be in the future that we go and acquire some type of product or tech to like, bring in from a testing standpoint? I could say that I would I would definitely be open to that. On the rise side of the business, I would say again, the continuation of what I started out to do, um, and I'm not where I want to be by any stretch. There's a lot of secure SDLC AppSec work that is going on in that company right now. I'm not at the point where I am satisfied with what I really set out to bring to the table, which was really bringing to bear the people technology process element of that, like really stitching that together well, understanding my clients business, how do we truly integrate that in and then help them, because AI is a concern for a lot of the applications and technology that is out there that they're using and how that's moving, and being able to then I would say, upgrade what they're doing to account for AI. So that's kind of on that trajectory there. So I would say that the other piece that I have still been struggling with to get off the ground, and it really is because I have my other two companies, is doing my, I don't know what you want to call it, training program for other cybersecurity practitioners. Look, and this is when we were at Kudelski that I started, I think you guys know this, started to put together um, some form of like training, mentorship, whatever, for consultants that are looking to take the leap or being asked to take the leap to lead a team for the first time. And it's kind of funny because I still kind of refine when I have time, like what does this look like, and kind of laying out these are all the things that I wish I knew when I took this on, and all the things that I've learned, right, going from Trustwave to SecureWorks to IBM to Kudelski, and now it's different. Like owning my own company is just like here's a path, but you know what, somebody else might be interested in this path because they may, out of necessity, have to start their own business, right? And it's just like, and I'm getting these questions now. Like I have friends that are just like, oh, they may be doing contract work or whatever. And they're just like, Shannon. And so they're asking me business questions about, business insurance or entity or, whatever. And so I'm starting to get those questions, and I'm just like, this is exactly why I want to do it. Have I started creating content like to like post out? No. Have I started building a program? That's been like 2-3 years, but I just haven't like launched the freaking thing. So again, that to me is another aspect of like, how do I give to that next generation of like, hey, I want to be, a consulting, cybersecurity consulting manager or practice lead or whatever. Like if I could just take that like 10 years of knowledge to help you, because I couldn't even do this for my own team, right? It's just like you're doing your one-on-ones or your whatever because you're just busy doing the thing. And it's just like, if I could just pour out my brain to you of all the experience and the gotchas and, the politics that you might have to deal with in a company as you're trying to, take care of your team, take care of your clients, and kind of move things forward. That is kind of my, I would say, next baby that I'm looking to birth at some point. But yeah, so there you go. Graham, you are on mute, my friend.
It's a problem. All right. So, yeah. All right. So, Shannon, we've been at the fire for a while. So now it's time to step back and see who's behind the tongs. In other words, we'd like to learn a little bit about you. So tell us, and I think you alluded to your career journey a little bit, but tell us how you kind of got started in cybersecurity and what that journey's been like.
Absolutely. So for me, I didn't start in cyber. Um, I don't know if you guys can see this back up here, but I did go to school for electrical engineering. So electrical engineering by education, and I went to work for AMD as an engineer for over a decade. And then it was at that point that I got into cyber, and I love tech. I guess I just have a affinity of understanding or trying to understand things, I would say, from a logical perspective. And that really, for whatever reason, like spoke to me. I had the opportunity to go get training or whatever to kind of retool, if you will. Because I did get impacted, by the way, in 2012 from AMD. My learnings in the industry at the time for semiconductor came very quickly when I like officially became an engineer at AMD. Had half of my team taken out, including the guy that hired me. So that was a like ordeal. And it was like, oh man. And every year we would have layoffs at AMD during that time frame, and sometimes twice a year. And it was just like, how long am I going to make it basically until, you get impacted. And so I always say like my number got called in 2012. And so we had the opportunity to, go get training, go get, I don't know, whatever type of certification or whatever. It was more or less in the tech realm. And there was a whole arena that was specific for what was labeled as information technology at the time, information security, excuse me. And what stood out to me that was really kind of interesting was the forensics piece on the computer side. And just like, okay, clearly I've been working in, with computers on my clients for however long. And I'm just like, yeah, I was like, this sounds really neat. I knew it was kind of an up and coming thing. And I was like, I'm going to go for it. So I started doing that for a very short time. I started taking the CompTIA, or however you say that, courses. I didn't even do the first one because I just started submitting resumes to see if I could get my foot in the door. Lo and behold, I did through Trustwave at the time. And it was just kind of funny because they interviewed me, and it was for a web application penetration testing position consultant. And they're just like, Shannon, we want to hire you, but we know that you can't hack your way out of a paper bag. Not yet. And I was like, yeah, you're totally right. So that is honestly like how I got my intro in, and the way it kind of came about was they're just like, hey, we'll train you, and you can do this role. There was, and I will say this, there was a gap between what I was making after being an engineer, right, at AMD for almost 11 years, to going into a new industry, starting out at the bottom. And I was just like, oof. I was like, I don't know if I can absorb that. So I actually took a contract position with VMware at the time. And they kind of like circle back, they meaning Trustwave at the time, after my first like 3 month cycle with VMware. And they're just like, we really want you to come. Here's a plan, or here's an offer that we'll give you. We'll give you more in salary. We still need to train you, but in 6 months to a year, we'd like for you to take over the AppSec analyst testing team. And so I was just like, holy cow, because I said this earlier, like I never envisioned being a manager of anything because I was always technical and the person on the, test floor or whatever in the lab. And so I thought about it for a minute. I was just like, okay, like I don't have to worry about laying anybody off, because that was always my fear. Like I never wanted to be that manager that had to go through that, because we're doing, whatever zero-based budgeting exercises every quarter or whatever year. And I knew that cyber was kind of on the up and up. So I said, sure, why not? Well, I joined. A month and a half later, they said, change of plans, you're taking over the team now. So that was crazy for me. So new industry, new job, learning how to do pen testing, and then just learning how to manage clients, doing scheduling, like all of these things was crazy to me. And you talk about trial by fire, like, holy hell, it
Right.
was a lot. It was probably one of the most stressful times in my career. Second, probably being blockchain. We can talk about that another time. At Kudelski. But yeah, it was crazy, but I absolutely freaking loved it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So that was kind of my entry point in. And going back to something we kind of talked about earlier, like there was something that I didn't fully appreciate until I left the walls of AMD, so to speak. I did not realize all of the skills and things that I had fully learned until I went into another company and another industry that hadn't been around that long. So it was just like, oh, like I actually do know something and I have something to bring to the table. But again, that was kind of my entry point in, starting to learn how to do AppSec testing, quickly took over a team, and then kind of never looked back. And I've always been in the consulting side of things. And after being with the company, specifically AMD, for over 10 years, because our parents, right, often were, with companies forever. And I don't know, it was like them pushing the baby bird out of the nest. And then it wasn't so scary. So it was kind of interesting to, be at different companies and see how they do things differently. And that was a learning in and of itself. But I absolutely love, and I treasured every company that I ever worked for, because it got me to the point of where I am today and starting my own. Again, never thought, that was never the plan. But it's just interesting the way, things work out and life kind of, creates your path, if you will. But yeah, it's been a ride, and I absolutely love it. So
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's kind of interesting background. I mean, I think most people that we talk to at this kind of level have generally not started, have not gone to college to study cybersecurity. Have just come into the field through lots of different ways. That was interesting. So as you look back, as you kind of think about your career and look back, I mean, what advice would you give someone who is maybe starting their career now, someone that does start, probably is at college and thinking about, and probably studying cybersecurity and thinking about, where do they go from here? So what advice would you give them?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing, and I know there's a lot of kids that hopefully they've had some form of job, whether that's in high school or in college, and I push them to take those skills that they have learned along the way, because just like me with my time at AMD before coming into cyber as an example, there are more skills than you realize that you have, and I'll give you one of them. Just the soft skills of being able to communicate with somebody and have the intelligent conversation. There's things that we take for granted. I work with some brilliant, and I have worked with brilliant pen testers, right, in my career, but not all of them are really great, like at working with clients and communicating on a regular basis. That in and of itself, there are just certain things of, can you show up on time? Can you, like, be reliable? It's so funny. It's just like the basic things that you would expect is hard. I feel like it's harder to find today, in this day and age than maybe it was, previously. I'm just like, I don't take any of that for granted. The people that are hungry, that's what I'm looking for. Like, who's hungry? Who's like, even if you haven't done it, like, I want to know you're going to give it your all. And I think those are the things that I kind of look for. And there's just like evidence of like interacting with somebody or the responsiveness. Like, again, small things, but for me, small things go a really long way. And I think there are things that people can do in their existing jobs or what have you that they can then take, and it's a different perspective. And I feel like that's actually helped me. I didn't come from here. I came from a different industry, but I have a different perspective that I can then bring to the table and kind of meld and maybe create something that is very unique, to bring to the table that other people, I think they just don't appreciate or realize at that point in time. You kind of look back and then you appreciate it. But any of those things, if you're in a company right now, even if it has nothing to do with cyber, like, there's probably an IT element of it somewhere. Like, figure out how you get into IT, and then like talk to the guy or whatever girl in IT and figure out like, hey, what do y'all do for cyber or whatever. That's kind of the way I would look at it, because if you're already in and you have a good work ethic, I think that speaks volumes and people are willing to help you trying to make that transition or whatever, if you have a lot of those other things that are in place. There you go.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And one thing you mentioned is about being hungry, which brings me to the purpose of the Cyber Smokehouse. We're tying it all together. So now we do have to talk about the smokehouse. The idea is that we're hanging out by the smoker, and we're talking about cyber, but we do want to ask. So, are you into backyard cooking? Do you have a smoker? And I should point out, if people are watching, I am actually hanging out by my smoker for this episode, which is a first for us. And so if people are listening, I'm sitting by my smoker as it's cooking a brisket, which is pretty exciting. I'm looking at a lake, so I am embracing the theme. But Shannon, do you do outdoor cooking? Are you a smoker fan?
I I am a fan of other people smoking because I don't have one, but I definitely appreciate the output of what comes from those great smokers. I do have a gas grill, and I am looking to invest into a smart egg soon because I need to upgrade my Weber Genesis 2, that's been with us for a decade now. So yeah, but absolutely, I am the cooker in the family and the griller. So there you go.
You were in Texas, and it was like a requirement to have at least like two smokers. Like it's a
I know. One would think. Yeah, for sure. We definitely have our fill of barbecue here for sure. And there's some great places in the Austin area, 100%, and surrounding areas too.
That's cool. Well, you want to do a quick lightning round?
Shannon, so we're going to head our lightning round. What comes off the top of your head, just a quick, sentence or two on these, that would be great. So, first of all, what's the biggest overhyped threat right now?
Mythos.
What's the industry getting completely wrong about security?
They're ignoring it. Not everybody, but more than they should.
And what's the one practice or tool that you think every organization should adopt tomorrow?
One practice or one tool? Sorry.
Or, tool or practice?
I'm a little bit biased, but testing, because you're actually validating what you think is true.
Awesome. All right. There you have it, our lightning round.
Okay.
Quick lightning of the lightning round. I love it. Well, hey Shannon, before we wrap, how
Yes.
can people find you and get in touch?
Yes, I would say the easiest way is probably through LinkedIn. You can find me for either of my companies. That's probably the easiest way. Just hit me up, tell me that you saw us on the Cyber Smokehouse Studio podcast and would love to connect.
What are the websites again for the companies?
Oh, so risesecurity.com and then strategicdefense.com.
Awesome. Well, hey, Shannon, it's been a genuine pleasure. Thank you for bringing your honesty and experience to the Cyber Smokehouse today.
Thank you for having me. It was so good to be with you guys.
And to everyone listening, if you got something out of today's conversation, if it made you think or made you laugh, please tell someone about it. That's how we grow the community. So subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Cyber Smokehouse. And that wraps another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at cybersmokehouse.com. Cyber Smokehouse is sponsored by TBD Cyber, a cybersecurity strategy consulting firm.
TBD Cyber works with organizations to assess their security program, develop and implement security initiatives, and optimize their security investments. We work in areas as broad as data security, risk management, cyber resilience, and security architecture. Our clients value us for our extensive expertise and independent advice, which is why we do not sell security products or deliver managed security services. If you want to work with a trusted advisor, we can help. You can learn more at tbdcyber.com. We'll see you on the next one.